welcome to a brand new Corn Nation Overreaction on the Corn Nation YouTube, Facebook, and X, formerly Twitter platforms. On a Sunday night live, 9 o'clock Central, God's favorite time zone. I'm Greg Mahochko, Haas Reuter, and Every Game Jake. Gentlemen, good evening. Celebrations somewhat in order. Nebraska leaves the Rose Bowl 28-21 victors over the host UCLA Bruins. TJ Lateef had his for a lot of really positive headlines, stories coming out. TJ Lateef, the homecoming, so to speak, the first career start. Emmett Johnson doing something that at least I was informed had never been done in Nebraska football history. And perhaps most importantly, because we always say the name on the front of the jersey means a hell of a lot more important than the name on the back of the jersey. Nebraska is 7-3 and just working their way up the bowl game ranks at this point. But how are you guys doing 24 hours after? Haas, we'll start with you.
Hey, man, to quote Kevin Malone from The Office, just feels good to win one. You know, winning in November has been pretty rare around here for the past few years. And I saw something today. It's never occurred in Nebraska history that we increased our win total 4 straight years, but 22, 23, 24, 25, 4, 5, 6, 7 wins now, more on the table. So it feels good to be playing relevant football in the month of November. Feels good to really be looking like maybe we have a little bit of an offensive identity, even though we found it pretty late in the year.
I'll say this, though, as far as that statistic of, 4 years of improving our record for decades, it's tough to have, a game better improvement when you're winning,
9, 10, 11 games.
Yeah, exactly. So there's, we had to fall to a certain level to rise back out of the ashes.
Yeah, and again, incremental improvement. That's the definition of it right there.
We've been talking about that for years, Hoss.
Feels good, man.
Jake, how are you tonight?
Good. We're winning close games. There's a hell of a lot more positives than negatives coming out of yesterday's game, and there's some pretty cool storylines and performances that we have we can talk about, and incremental improvement. I feel like that's a very common phrase that we use on this show, but feel great, feel good.
We used to kick around the idea of having a shirt that said incremental improvement, but that was back in our recording over Skype in audio only mode back in like 2018.
Simpler times.
Yeah. Well, we didn't have to be here at a certain time and being razzed in the comments for allegedly being late. Husker Chuck, the intro started in the 9 o'clock minute. All right. Our faces appeared at 9:01. Leave us alone. Yep. So Nebraska wins 28-21 over, I'll say, a feisty UCLA team. This is a team that started 0-4 in that span of that time. They fired their head coach. Then they rattled off some pretty impressive wins in Big Ten play. And with the coaches that they have now, their interim offensive coordinator, the new Heisel kid, who's, the announcers for Fox last night said he may be the I don't want to say the unsung hero. He's certainly getting some shine now, but just diamond in the rough type of moment in season for him with what he's able to accomplish there in Pasadena.
Yeah, he's a really solid OC. What he's done to kind of recreate the UCLA offense since they fired Deshaun Foster, it was pretty remarkable because, early in the year, they weren't using Nico very often on designed runs. New Heisel's turned him loose, and I know that few people in the comments have mentioned they were disappointed with the defensive performance. Honestly, a lot of it just came down to Nico escaping out of the pocket and extending plays. I thought the defense actually played a really solid game yesterday.
Yeah, but still had trouble getting off the field on third downs. That's the only thing that I was really disappointed in. Even
because we had guys in his face.
Yeah, Nico just played really well. And I was talking to my wife a little bit ago. She was like, asking me kind of about him. Like, that was a former, five-star guy, like top 3 quarterback in his class. He's incredibly talented, and he's gonna run around and scramble and make you miss. So we still, gave up 21 points, which is, to me, it's an acceptable defensive performance. I didn't see what does either of you guys have the stats handy? I wonder what the time of possession is.
I've got you. All figured out here.
Yeah.
It's one of the few things that I can contribute on a regular basis. Any guesses? Any guesses?
I'm going to say they had about 32 minutes time possession.
I think it's like 30, 38, or I'm going to say 38 used in favor of UCLA.
According to Huskers.com/box score/21859, 30-30 even.
Wow. Okay. It didn't feel that way to me.
No, it felt like we played
Quit stealing my shit, Husker Chuck.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty lopsided. I felt like they had the ball 65% of the time easily, but
what's crazy about that game yesterday is like we kind of turned it into a game like Northwestern likes to play. We had 7 total possessions, I think, in that game. I think it might even be as low as 6 because we punted once, we took a kneel down, and then we scored 4 times. Like we committed no turnovers. I think, honest to God, I think we only had 6 possessions in that game.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right.
I don't know how to quickly scan the stats and find that one. Sorry. But you're right. No turnovers, which was huge. Only the 1 punt, which came, latter half of the third quarter, I believe, or maybe even the fourth quarter. We were efficient. At one point. So I just to explain my side of things here, and I don't know if anybody else was experiencing something similar. I put my boys to bed, tried to get them to bed before 8 o'clock for kickoff. That didn't work. It never does. But I had, I've got YouTube TV. So by the time I got downstairs, this chair right over here for the game, I turn it on, put on YouTube TV, start from the beginning. And the very beginning of the broadcast on Fox was the replay of the touchdown pass from TJ Lateef to Ja'Cory Barney Jr. And I said, well, what happened to the first 8 minutes of the game? No idea. Apparently the basketball game ran late, which I think is BS because, college basketball shouldn't exist before Thanksgiving. Why are they putting it on a primetime college football Saturday evening? Never mind that. Apparently that had moved the start of the Husker game to Fox 2 or something like that. So anyway, my system didn't pick it up. But at one point, the announcers, they're obviously talking about TJ Lateef. We'll talk about TJ Lateef. They said, oh my gosh, he's 6 for 6. He's 8 for 8. I think he finished, I shouldn't say
13 of 15.
Yeah. 2 misses, 2 incompletions on the night, over 200 yards, 205 if you want to get technical, 3 touchdowns, and that longest play for him, or longest pass for him was 56 yards, which I think was the wheel route touchdown, was it not?
Mm-hmm.
Damn it. So, and credit, I know we'll talk about Emmett Johnson too, but as a team, Nebraska took care of the ball last night in a way that we haven't seen this season, really. I mean, we saw glimpses of it certainly against Akron and Houston Christian for whatever that's worth, but that was punching down. Now this is a team that was fighting for a spot in a bowl game, which was UCLA. I mean, they were a 3-win team, I believe, and they needed to win out to ensure that their season would continue into December. They weren't half-assing it, and so Nebraska had to play. They had to show up, like you said, Hoss, meaningful football in November, and they did. It wasn't pretty all the time, but Husker football is rarely pretty at this point. We'll get there. I believe we'll get there eventually where Husker football is just chef's kiss. It wasn't last night, but they did what they needed to do to get the dub.
I love what you said about doing what we need to do to get the dub, because for too long I felt like we were more interested in flash and style over substance, and yesterday was just kind of a case of going out there and taking care of business. It's not the sexiest thing on earth, but you go out there, you win on the road. I don't care that it's UCLA. I don't care that they're 3-5. I don't care that probably Husker fans outnumbered Bruins fans on a 3-1 ratio inside their own stadium. We did what other teams in the Big Ten make a living doing.
Mm-hmm.
Just going in there and punching somebody in the mouth. And I do feel like there might be, at least stylistically, it might be a turning point for this program and growing up a little bit and realizing like, hey, at the end of the day, it's all about just blocking, tackling, and taking care of the football. Who cares what it looks like? Just go out there and, as Al Davis said, just win.
And I think that's going to be an introduction to a larger conversation about priorities, the priorities of Lincoln, which we've talked about here on this show, just a couple weeks ago. Is the priority winning football games for the Nebraska Corn Huskers, or had the priority been doing everything we could to put the best shine on Dylan Raiola to make sure that he became the highest drafted quarterback in Nebraska history? Now
all that we ran yesterday was stuff that I was saying on here. I'm not going to pat myself on the back too hard there. What I was saying on here, what other people have been saying about running downhill, using the pistol to kind of establish that midline and force, the defense to defend the run a little bit differently, rolling the quarterback out, using some true air raid concepts like the shallow crosses, the crack screen touchdown that Emmett Johnson had, the wheel routes, exploiting space and pace and leverage, using those three things, to exploit defenses. And I look at it now and it's like, okay, it took us to this point when we're, triaging a way forward after Dylan gets hurt to establish this into our offense, where what really frustrates me is if we were showcasing him, putting on the best polish we can to make him a top NFL prospect, what really frustrates me is we did so in a way that is completely not the way that you showcase a guy's talents. We weren't using any of those concepts with Dylan. We weren't making the job easier for him. It was as if he was just going to drop back and beat everybody with his arm. Instead, we're playing complementary football now along the offensive line with the receivers within the run game. We should have been doing that with Dylan. And I think you would have seen his stats take off and he wouldn't look like he was so stuck in the mud. Instead, some of those pass plays, he'd hold on to the ball like he's Dan Marino executing a 7-step drop back in 84 or 85.
Which, Fred says the priority was trying to manicure an offense to make Dylan look perfect. Ironically, it didn't do that. Last night we just played football. And
fucking football. Amen, Fred.
And I'll say this, that is an indictment on the coaches.
Mm-hmm. Indictment on the coaches, and it makes you kind of have to wonder how much leverage in this NIL era and transfer portal era, how much leverage does a player have to dictate other parts of the program?
Yeah. I mean, I don't, that's interesting.
I mean, it's a rhetorical question. I'm pondering it, Yeah.
I think the best nature of ourselves doesn't want to think like that. But it's asinine to think that, Dylan couldn't complete those short routes or the wheel route. Look, TJ had really nice touch on that one catch to, it was probably Emmett, but it could have been, just the ball. I think Dylan could have made those throws, but
would he have pulled the trigger in time? Jake, you and I were talking about that last night on a lot of those throws.
Yeah. TJ seemed a little bit more, just like Pat, like the eye test, he seemed a little bit more confident in his throws. Like he seemed more decisive, quicker than Dylan has. And I don't know why that is necessarily. I've seen some things in the last, 24 hours or so. It's not very many, but some Husker fans kind of celebrating the injury of Raiola now, thinking that, whatever their opinion is with TJ and his ability. But if that is you should be ashamed of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You should not be celebrating the injury of a guy who put his heart and soul into the program just because maybe he hasn't been what we've expected him to be to this point. Now, that being said, I am allowed to be critical. We all are allowed to be critical of Dylan's performance to this point and to compare TJ's performance last night, albeit a small sample size, to Dylan's. And I definitely think it's one game, guys. He got in a little bit against Houston Christian Akron, but it's one game that TJ's played. I mean, there's been a lot of Ryan Leaf looked really good in the first 1 or 2 games he played for the Chargers before he played the Chiefs and went like 1 for 15 with like 6 turnovers.
Mm.
So knock on wood, I don't think that's going to happen here, but I'm just saying, I think let's just be happy with what we saw and be optimistic, but let's not get in over our heads and think that we have the next Tommy Frazier just yet.
That's what the Zero says.
There you go.
The Zero said earlier that he was at the game last night. He says, "Pump the brakes, fellas. It's one game versus a horrid defense, and nobody had tape on the kid."
Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah, exactly.
Here's the thing. I'm not calling, Tommy Frazier, Thomas Lott, Darian Hagan, but when you look at what he does as a distributor of the football, and you look at what Dana Holgerson has historically done with guys who are just distributors. I mean, Dana Holgerson turned guys that look like they're pumping gas at a Texaco into 5,000-yard passers at Texas Tech. Yeah. He turned guys like Will Greer and Skylar Marshall, can't remember which one, into great distributors at West Virginia. And UCLA, as Fred said, they're not the 85 Bears. But also, Dylan Raiola played a shit game last year against UCLA in Lincoln. I mean, it's one game, yes, but when all those elements come together and coalesce for an offense to go out there and be successful, and you didn't see that except maybe once in the past 22 games with our starter Raiola, who lost his job to injury, it's one of those moments where things pass the eyeball test. Penn State could come out and they, do what you said happened to Ryan Leaf against the Chiefs. But at the same time, I like what TJ gives us from the standpoint of being able to get the football out faster, and I think it opens up a lot more of the offense to utilize leverage instead of just turning it into a middle-of-the-field game that looks like, World War I, no movement.
Fred says it was apparent, too, they looked to have coached TJ to go 1-2-3 throw or 1-2 throw, and if nothing is there, run. That's an element of the offense that Dylan didn't have. Dylan, we saw in the last month or 6 weeks, try to get out there and a few plays that they called his own number, some designed runs, nothing major. But TJ just has the ability to design on the fly, because he's a mobile quarterback. He's a dual threat quarterback. In fact, I saw, was it a quote from Dana Holgerson maybe, that says he's a triple threat quarterback. He can beat you with his arms, he can beat you with the legs, and he can beat you with his brain.
Mm-hmm.
So look, at the end of the day, it is going to sound maybe, I don't know, crass or impersonal or insensitive. I don't care who's under center.
I just want to win.
Just win. Just win. I don't even like Al Davis enough to quote him, but just win.
Yeah, just win. I don't care if it's Kermit the Frog playing quarterback for us.
No, I can't.
Well, that's a funny thing.
Pull out my Kermit the Frog. I don't have it.
Kind of all comes full circle because everyone says Patrick Mahomes sounds like Kermit the Frog, and
there you go.
Our quarterback, I'm not going to go there. Method acts has him. Yeah.
He's Daniel Day-Lewis in it.
Yeah.
I don't know who's taking over the Corn Nation.
Hopefully he's gone.
Says everybody on offense looked confident about what they were doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, when the offensive line isn't having to protect for 4.5 to 5 seconds for a simple curl route to be thrown,
I mean, yeah. Like I said, we're allowed to be critical. It's fine. It's fine to be critical. It's fine to say that TJ looked really, really confident, decisive, and quick. And it's fine to be optimistic going into the remainder of this season after seeing that. I will say the offense had a different vibe to it.
Mm-hmm.
The feel of the offense was a little bit different. Lateef certainly has some the moment isn't too big for him.
And as a true freshman, he's got a high football IQ.
He does, and he stepped in and really owned it.
Fred says that the threat of TJ running gave pause to the DBs and helped guys get open who hadn't been getting consistently open. Dank, he had several nice catches last night.
Yep.
And Fred also says they finally ran a decent play with Harburg in short yardage, which I wish they'd stop, but at least this time it worked. So.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's kind of like we said, don't care who's at quarterback.
I think you and we both slammed our head on the bar over here to my left last night after we saw Harburg. I think both of us went, oh.
Yeah. Oh, I was ready just for it not to go well, and that was the momentum shift that UCLA would need to get back fully into the game. But I mean, we've talked about the quarterback position a lot, and obviously, if Lateef continues stacking good games together, it's going to be the topic of conversation after the regular season's over.
The best thing you could have asked for. Sorry, Haas, I didn't mean to cut
No,
you.
I agree 100%. You're all right. Like, it's the best thing you could ask for because iron sharpens iron. That's when you know that we're getting better.
Let's have a quarterback competition.
That's
what you want the narrative to be going into next year.
Yeah.
And whoever doesn't win the starting job, okay, we know you're going to transfer out. You know, whether that's TJ transferring out or Dylan transferring out, okay, that's, go get your money, go get your starting job somewhere.
Did you guys
both of them are not sticking around on the roster?
Did you guys listen to the post game on the field interview?
No.
It started with Matt Rule, and he, I think got asked one question, maybe answered 1.5 questions, something like that. And he says, you don't want to talk to me, and pulls TJ over. So they talked to TJ a little bit, and he's, very humble, individual sounds like. And he says, thinking about my brother Dylan and wishing him a speedy, just a lot of, things you would expect. But then then they talked to Emmett Johnson as well. Again, humble, tremendous young man. But then the announcers come back on. He says, well, you got to think with comments like that even after Dylan gets healthy, when you're talking about calling someone your brother, that it's probably a good sign that they'll both still be here in Lincoln next year. So,
I mean, it'd be nice if it went that way, but this portal era, I'm pretty jaded when it comes to this stuff.
I think you have a better chance if now, not to get ahead of ourselves with the one game performance TJ had, but let's say that we finish out the year real strong and TJ kind of continues this level of performance. I think if you go into an open competition in the spring, in the fall, whatever, next season, if Dylan wins it, I think you have a better chance of keeping Lateef than the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
I think if Lateef, and it's announced that Lateef is the starter, I think that it's more likely for Dylan. He's a year older. He's got kind of that 5-star name still on him, attached to him. I think that he's more likely to probably transfer out.
Yeah, I agree. I could see TJ sticking around if he doesn't win it, simply because if Dylan wins it and tears it up his junior year, he's gone.
He's gone. Yeah, TJ still got another year.
Yeah.
Well, let's shift the conversation to less speculation, just more spectacle. Charles Hewlett says, Emmett was spectacular too. Let's give the stat line, if you gentlemen don't mind. He had 28 catches for 129 yards and a touchdown. He had 3 catches on 3 targets for 103 yards. That is 86 yards after the catch, 2 touchdowns. We talked about that 56-yarder. According to my sources, who my source is here with us in spirit, unless he just jumped in the comments and I haven't seen him yet. BFOTS Josh Hansen says the first time any player has 100 yards receiving and over 100 yards rushing, the first time that has happened, any player in the Big Ten since 2012, and apparently he's the first running back in school history to go hundo. So
the only guy that did in college football last year is Cam Scatterbo.
Well, good company.
Yeah,
except Scatterbo just got hurt like last year.
Dislocated ankle. I mean, Emmett's playing at a seriously all-American level. It's it's insane to see this surge late in the year, because most years we usually see running backs kind of start to fade this time of the year, especially for Nebraska. Injuries, just poor performances. But he's almost like he's peaking at the right time.
Right.
And I still think his best moment might be still in front of him yet this season.
He only averaged 4.6 yards per carry. But, I mean, just doing we talked in the past about we'd like him to be 23 to 26 carries. He had 28 carries, and he ended up touching the ball 31 times last night.
After that performance, that's a get him recovered over the bye week.
Yep.
Because what do you have against USC? 29 carries, and he had 31 against 31 touches against UCLA, so that's 60. And I think against Northwestern, I think he was around 22. So, I mean, he's had 82 touches in the past 3 games.
Time to, get him in the ice bath or, whatever it takes for these colleges. But I remember those were the types of numbers back in the day. And I say back in the day, it's, 25 years ago, whatever. The St. Louis Rams and Marshall Faulk. Like, if you can get the ball in his hands 25 to 30 times, it's a higher likelihood of success. Now, I'm not necessarily equating Emmett Johnson to Marshall Faulk, but it's the same type of ability for the level of the team, if that makes sense. So,
yeah, I agree. I think, he means to us what Marshall Faulk meant to those Rams teams, kind of as an all-purpose weapon. And I just think it's a super cool story to see Emmett as he's developed over the years. I remember when he first got some snaps at Nebraska, it was during that Illinois game that you were at a few years ago, Greg, in Champaign. And Anthony Grant finally got yanked because he couldn't stop coughing up the ball. And just with Emmett Johnson, I remember we ran just a real simple inside zone play out of the ace formation. And you just saw that first step, the explosion, the suddenness. And I thought, okay, this guy could be an all right player, And then he kind of took that job over as the year went on. And it's unfortunate that last year he was buried so far down the depth chart to start the year. And Dana came in November, about a year ago right now. And he was one of the first guys that Emmett was one of the first guys that Dana was shocked that we weren't getting him the ball, that he wasn't in the lineup more.
To the point that he entered the transfer portal last December, and after I guess conversation with Dana, came out of the transfer portal, and then he's put in all the work. All the work in the offseason is paying dividends now, right when he needed to. But you're right, the bye week we need to get him recovered so that he can go do it again. Happy Valley's not going to be an easy place to play in 2 weeks, and then Iowa at home. I mean, you're 7-3.
State defense is still pretty solid too.
Yeah, look what they did to Indiana yesterday.
Yeah, dude, I actually felt bad for Penn State when I was watching the end of that Indiana game because, I bet we've been there as Husker fans a million times. That just seemed like it was a Husker type loss,
doomed to fail.
Yep. But no, Emmett Johnson, man, I think that a recipe for success in 3 weeks against Iowa. Having a mobile quarterback changes the dynamic on how they're going to defend us. I mean, if it was Dillon, they would just cage him to the pocket and, just blanket the field in coverage. But playing 11-on-11 football, having that run threat next to Emmett in the backfield with TJ Lateef, I feel like that's something where, I mean, if he could go for 110, 120 in that game against Iowa's defense, I'd feel pretty good about us winning that game.
Yeah. I'm looking up, trying to find an answer to a question. I'm probably not going to be able to find it because David Matney was asking how much we were paying Emmett, and I don't know.
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
So, but apparently you can just go on. I just typed in Emmett Johnson NIL and nil.store/Nebraska, whatever the link, but you can get customized or personalized or Emmett Johnsonized Husker gear, from a camo shirt to a Herbie Husker to hoodies. If you want to show your support to Emmett Johnson, just type in Emmett Johnson NIL in your Google machine, and you can help pay him if you'd like. So
I'm not gonna lie, that camo one's actually pretty sweet,
isn't it?
Yeah, and the old school 21 jersey, that's actually pretty dope too.
So they're there. In fact, I'm gonna do the work so y'all don't have to. I'm gonna put the link here in the chat. We're not sponsored by them, but we just want you to be able to have easy access to it because we care. So now go forth and Gregel. Gargamel says he heard 500,000 is what Emmett gets. If that's the case, honestly, underpaid for what he's done for this team this year. Mm-hmm. He's undercompensated and others are overcompensated. So not Not naming any names. Mentioning
I think probably one name came to almost everyone's mind at the same time.
Dane Key.
No,
I'm not gonna. So when you have a mobile quarterback, I'm asking or making a statement to I don't know, spur conversation. Does the offensive line have to be as good as no? You know what I mean? Like,
No, it doesnn't.
well, it's kind of sorry. There's like it's kind of a nuanced question. It's different.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like what type of quarterback fits your offensive line strengths better. Go ahead, Haas. I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the offensive line. I mean, when you're not just caged in the pocket, or let's rewind it a little bit. When you're caged in the pocket as a pocket passer, you are essentially playing -1 against the defense because they're going to outnumber you. They're going to have an extra guy that they can, blitz, drop off into coverage by the quarterback, whatever assignment they choose for him. But when you can run the quarterback, when he's not distributing the ball, whether it's on a designed run or he's just tucking it, on a scramble and taking off, you created an extra blocker now, and you've created an extra gap for the defense to defend. So at that point, you're outnumbering them. And so when it comes down to the actual technical side of it with the offensive line and, mobile quarterback makes them look good. I mean, look at those offensive lines we had under Pelini when we had Taylor Martinez. They weren't the greatest O-lines out there. In fact, we all bitched about those O-lines back then. But they looked a hell of a lot better because there were so many run threats that the defense had to account for on every play. That and, when you're throwing it, that threat of the run, that really backs defenses off from playing man coverage or blitzing guys. In man coverage, we saw Jaden Maeva last week against us. He scrambled. Well, Donovan Jones was in man coverage, had his back turned to the play. So force teams to play more zone. You're able to get guys open underneath. You're able to get them open in the holes in the zone. So it just changes the entire calculus of offensive football with having that mobile quarterback. And, a lot of people always like to say Iowa's offensive line's the best offensive line in college football right now. They're actually not that great of an O-line. It's just Mark Gronowski and what he gives to that offense with his legs makes them look a hell of a lot better.
So
agree with that.
I understand. I know the answer to the question before I ask it. If we have an offensive line, which, by the way, is patchwork as it is, we've had plenty of injuries up there. If they are better suited for one style of play, why are we not running that style? Like I guess my question is, in the last 9 games prior to last night, why were we dialing up so many long developing plays and not the quick slants and things like that TJ was given last night to develop a rhythm and establish some comfort? Why didn't we do that? Why does it seem and I don't know who to blame for this, so I'm just going to ask the question. Why does it seem like we set Dylan up for failure?
Well, it kind of goes back to what I said earlier about how much leverage does the NIL and the portal era of college football give a player over his coaching staff. I'm not saying that as a basis of fact. Like, that is 100% pure conjecture. But I'm going to invoke a little Bob Diaco here with this next quote. There's no reasonable reason to look at that and ask why and not arrive to that conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, like, it's pure lunacy. Like, when Raiola committed here and then when Dana came aboard last year, I thought, oh, man, we're going to just go full air raid with this thing, get the ball out fast, utilize, and exploit leverage and space, all that stuff. And instead, like, we're running the same old offense that we had, before. But then you also look at it, Rule's plan when he took over here was a mobile quarterback. That's why he brought in Jeff Sims. And then we had to lean even further into having a mobile quarterback because of all the injuries that year. We had to go pure option football. But when Dylan gets presented to you as an option, I mean, you take it. But after Dylan, the way quarterback recruiting is looking, for when he's done here, you can see that there's that plan to switch back to having a mobile quarterback. TJ Lateef, Trey Taylor, those kind of guys.
Gary Pierce with a good comment here says maybe Vegas called and told us to only throw fades.
Yeah, we didn't see fade route, Jake.
Nope. Yep.
No, but there were some passes, as I mentioned earlier, with just the right amount of touch on them. Even Tim Brando said biscuit in a basket. And I was like, that is my phrase. I mean, I didn't know, I didn't create it, but I said that quite a lot in the Casey Thompson to Trey Palmer years. So damn it. We only got one of those.
Yeah, those guys were just rentals.
So Emmett had a tremendous night. We talked, look, when you go 13 of 15 passing, I'm sure a lot of the receivers felt underappreciated, but Isaiah Hunter, 3 targets, 3 catches, 37 yards. You had Dane Key with 4 targets, 3 catches, 46 yards. And then Ja'Cory Barney Jr., 4 for 4 on targets and catches, 19 yards, the touchdown. Efficient. Somebody in the comments earlier said how refreshing it was to see an almost 3-to-1 ratio of rushes to passes. Now, I know you guys have both said in the past you're not necessarily run the damn ball guys, but just
do whatever works, guys.
There you go. Okay, I was going to ask if you were comfortable with the ratio, but you are if the end result is what we got last night. So.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I'm not okay with is like the definition of insanity, doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results.
Yeah. Let's talk about the defensive side of the ball.
Okay.
Because as we mentioned kind of at the outset in brief, defense didn't play bad. It's just that Nico's a very elusive quarterback. I said last night that I think our attackers or our defenders at the point of attack, I guess, they over pursued a bit. We had lots of penetration. Quiet, Fred. It's just he's evasive and he was tough to bring down in the backfield.
Yeah, I think missing Dasan McCullough hurt us last night too. I'm not saying he would totally shut down Nico, but not having him, we were kind of scrambling a little bit defensively. I mean, you saw guys like Dylan Rogers get in pretty early in the game because of those injuries.
Yeah.
I mean, we still managed 3 sacks on Nico. His stat line was 17 of 25 for 191 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He was their leading rusher as well for 86 yards. When we look at UCLA, I know this year is, I don't want to call it an anomaly. I mean, they started so poorly. Are they going to be a team that is improved next year, or is it going to be, I mean, it's the Big Ten, so it's going to be tough sledding for everybody. I've looked at who Nebraska's opponents are. I definitely know it's going to be, tough sledding for the Big Red. Is UCLA in a position where they are going to see improvement next year, or are they going to, suffer an insane amount of attrition, have some of their top guys leaving? What's your guys' quick take on where the Bruins are at?
I think they're going to have to make a great hire. That's the big thing, and I'm not really sure if they're in a position to do so, just because that program, it's pretty far down, where they're at right now. I mean, that was part of what made losing to them last year so frustrating. Yeah. We shit the bed against a vastly inferior opponent. But I don't know. I mean, if you get a Jed Fish from Washington, maybe they don't see as much attrition. But UCLA is kind of one of those schools. They're going to follow the playbook they always do in a coaching hire. They're going to go get some guy from the NFL. And I think that is probably going to fail miserably, bringing guys in from the NFL that aren't used to the NIL and portal era. So I think that they're going to be pretty moribund for a while.
I agree. I feel like they're just too far away.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it would take a pretty monumental turnaround, something pretty Signetti-like.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
To turn them around quickly. I feel like that's a long build. And I think that whoever they hire, they're going to have to be fairly patient and don't make it a turnstile of coaches. Try to pick the right guy and stick with him for a while.
I agree. I think that they need to build a firm foundation first and foremost.
Obviously, try to pick the right guy. I mean, get a guy who you feel like is the right fit and then give him a shot. And I like Deshaun Foster, by the way.
I do too.
I just like the guy. I felt bad. I did feel bad for him, but can't do the job. So that's just what this is.
Did you see any other bright spots from the Huskers defensively? I mean, it just seemed like it was, I don't want to say bland, but I mean, it was effective when it needed to be. I think we certainly like to have tightened things up a little bit in the fourth quarter, maybe. But again, so much of what UCLA did and succeeded with was run through their quarterback, who is going to make a lot of defenses look foolish. And to our credit, we have Emmett Johnson, who makes a lot of defenses look foolish. So, I mean, I feel like those elements kind of balance themselves out. But any risers? I know we haven't really done risers in a while, but any risers on the defense that you guys saw, like, oh well, you know what? Here's one to continue keeping an eye on.
Yeah, Caden Peacock always kind of is like a kind of the guy that flies under the radar that's consistently pretty good. I'm not going to count our corners at this point. They're not risers. They just play well every week. So I'd go Caden Peacock.
Yeah, I'd go Peacock, or I thought Winery did a nice job of getting off the milk carton yesterday. I thought he looked really good.
Yeah.
And I know we say his name a lot, so I can't call him a riser. But I thought Shavers continue to
obviously
be Shavers. I mean, it's again, you just sort of expect it. But the one that comes to mind was his TFL, where I think UCLA put a man in motion going left to right, and there was just a subtle adjustment, and he just exploded into the backfield and took, I don't know if it was Berger or another. I know it wasn't Nico, it wasn't a sack or designed run for the quarterback, but he just blew up a play. And I extra applause for him. For guys like Rocco who still have maybe Cam Linhart, I haven't paid attention, but who still have clubs on their hands from the cast. I mean, just and I don't want to spend tonight getting into the officiating and it's just, I feel like we keep beating that same drum every week because I don't know. I don't want to say we're biased, but at the end of the day, there weren't any plays that were so egregious that they cost us a game. I think that officials are in a tight spot from top to bottom in all levels in all sports because, at the city level, the municipal level, not too many people want to just volunteer to go out there and be an umpire or referee and get shit on by people. But, so I don't know. There needs to be some accountability in officiating. Let's just be a little bit consistent. Let's call a hold once in a while. My God.
I mean, dude, when it's really obvious on the edges,
yep.
Not even, interior, maybe I can see him get, some of those on the edge, man, I don't know. There's got to be accountability. These are too obvious.
And there's too much money at play in college football anymore. For officiating to be guys that basically, are doing this as a hobby. They have day jobs. And I think that there needs to be a heavier degree of scrutiny on these refs. And especially with how pervasive as sports gambling's become, I think there needs to be some accountability there. Like Dabo Sweeney was pointing that out earlier this week.
Fred says they held Van Poppel several times, and it was glaring also on Nwaneri.
Van Poppel played a hell of a lot better game yesterday than he did against SC.
He did, but I'm still waiting for him to break out.
Same.
He seems like he's just can't quite break out and start making like more splash plays.
Him and Cameron Lenhart, guys who are both in that 2023 class, they've regressed a little bit over the past couple of years from what they were as freshmen.
Yeah, you wonder, you think about Ty, he was in the program a while and he was, 24 years old, kind of not fair to compare, but he wasn't just a steadying presence. He would make plays.
Yep.
He would break through the line, he'd break a double team and make a play. And I just want to see that from Van Poppel.
That's the one thing, funny that you bring that up, because I wanted to touch on this tonight. Our glaring weakness all year, we talk about run defense always being suspect for us this year. But with Ty and Nash last year, 3rd and short and 4th and short or goal line situations, always felt a pretty high degree of confidence that one of them was going to storm into the backfield to get a stop. Yeah. And that is somewhere on the roster that we have to go out and spend big money in NIL to go get a couple of really good interior defensive linemen.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, no disrespect to Elijah Judy. He's just not the guy.
He, tail end of last year, he was playing at a really elite level. He was.
But who was around him too?
But yep, it's the Jared Crick phenomenon.
Yeah. And that's not bashing Jared Crick. That's not bashing these guys. It's just the reality of it.
When you play next to, a Sunday guy, you're gonna and Ndamukong Suh, you want to talk about generational talent? That's generational talent. Ty Robinson's fantastic. I don't know if I call him generational talent.
No, he's not on that level. No.
Now, because I think there's two factors. There's the guys who were here last year who aren't here, and also I'm asking, where we have a different defensive line coach.
Nope.
And so maybe some things have changed. I understand.
I did think Terrence Knighton was I thought he was a very good defensive line coach.
100%.
The basic fundamentals of defensive line play they don't change a whole lot, but there can be little variations. So maybe by this time next year, we're saying something different about RVP, about Cam Lenhart, whoever else is on that D line, a second year in, as the guys, more reps. I don't know. I'm just.
No, and sometimes, you only get one really good year out of a guy. So, maybe you expect to get 3 years out of, sometimes you get. Now, I'm going to pull a name out that might be most will probably remember. Oladogun Duro.
Yeah.
We only got one good year out of that dude, and he was really good his senior year in 06. Really, really good. And had, no stats, or not the defensive linemen rack up a lot of stats anyway, usually, but unless you're Ndamukong Suh. But, he played a hell of a good year 1 year we had him and was kind of a fringe Sunday guy. Mm-hmm. If we get one really good year out of Lenhart, that's awesome. Hopefully he can break out. And also, I think a good benchmark for your program success, I don't know who would really argue with this, is you got to put guys in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
You have to. And I want to see as many of these guys go and have Sunday careers, or NFL careers, and they play on Sundays as possible. And that's also a big pitch to recruits too. How easy is it to recruit receivers to Ohio State?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, just like if you're a tight end, you go to a place like Iowa. If you're a running back, you go to Alabama with the run that they've had.
Pick a different school.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that they are unfortunately tight end you.
No one could argue that they are 100%.
As long as those Huskers, when they end up in the pros, don't end up in Cincinnati, Cleveland, or Baltimore, I'm pretty much okay with it. I just something about them going to the AFC North rivals. Let's do a quick recap of where you guys thought this game would end.
Yeah.
And Haas, at the beginning of the season, you said Nebraska would beat UCLA 33-20. You changed that to 2016 last week. Jake, you said Nebraska at the beginning of the season would win 30-14, and you corrected to 27-20.
Nice.
I said 31-24 on Thursday night, so I was also 3 points ahead. So in my opinion, there's not an award to be given out. But if there was an award, Jake, that's two headed your way because you were also pretty close on Houston Christian. Well, you had the exact Houston.
I had it.
Then you changed it. So.
What do we have for Penn State? Like, I want to give my prediction tonight and take 2 weeks to gnaw on it.
Well, I was going to ask because we had a question here. Tedrick wants to know, will we do a show next week during the bye? And I'll be honest with you, I was kind of thinking no.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I'm getting new furniture. We're getting new furniture next Sunday or weekend, so I'm going to be busy.
You're going to be in the ice bath yourself.
Yeah, so I could use as much time as possible.
Well, we'll get to predictions here in a minute. We got a few other starred comments. James Borman says the first time since 2016 that Nebraska has four Big Ten conference wins. That's startling. We also have some more history. Husker Chuck says since at least 1995, Lateef was the first player with at least 15 pass attempts, 2 or less incompletions, 0 interceptions, 200-plus yards, 3 touchdowns, and at least 30 yards rushing. So I don't know.
An arbitrary LeBron James stat, but still solid.
I don't know. Let's not bring him into this. This is a family show. Damn it. Charles Hewitt wants to know if TJ will get Big Ten Freshman of the Week honors with that performance.
He definitely should.
He should, but I don't know enough about. I don't know whether freshmen.
Yeah, I don't know what other freshmen are out there doing their thing.
But to me, he should get it based on the circumstance. Unless somebody else went out there at quarterback on the road, had a performance
first
like
game
that.
As an underdog too.
First game as a road dog. I mean, I would think he because of the circumstance, he absolutely should get it.
Did you say road dog?
Road dogs.
Oh, you didn't know?
Your ass better call somebody, Greg.
See, you know what? I can forget a lot of things in my life, but I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
Gary Pierce says, take our fans out, and the stadium was empty.
Amen,
and,
Gary.
Yeah.
Piggybacking on that, Husker Chuck says the crowd seemed more red than blue. James Borman says, I wish my parents held me like Big Ten offensive linemen. And I love that so much I had to start here, James. That's a good one.
Oh, that's good.
And here's one. I think I know the answer, but since we haven't shit on Iowa yet, Gary wants to know, who would you rather beat, Penn State or Iowa?
Iowa. Iowa. Not even a question. If you were to ask me, do you want to beat Penn State or do you want to beat Iowa? Or you can beat Penn State, lose to Iowa, win your bowl game, or you can just beat Iowa but lose to Penn State, lose your bowl game. I'd say I'll take that deal. That's a damn good deal.
Is this like if you're Ohio State, would you rather win the national championship or beat Michigan?
Well, no, because I'm always going to win a national championship more. But, if we're going to follow the incremental growth curve here, beating Iowa is where it starts, okay?
I'm not even going – it's Iowa. I was trying to think of a good comparison. I can't even dig deep enough. Like, would you rather get an ice cream cone or – like end evil in the world? Like that's what this question's like. Yeah. It's not even close.
Yeah.
Like by the way, I'm holding you to that, Haas. If we beat Iowa, what are we going to do on the podcast following?
Oh yeah, we talked about this last night, and this is our promise. And Greg, you can join us on this too, as our esteemed host. Jake and I are both going to drink a 12-pack on air during the podcast.
We might have to do that one on a Saturday night because some of us got to get up and work on Sunday.
Hey, if you're going to stay up late hooting with the Owls, you got to get up and soar with the Eagles.
All right. We'll, you know what? What if we did that Friday night?
Nope.
Damn.
Nope. I can't do same-day reaction.
Fun. I'm just thinking of like when I have the boys, when I don't have the boys. So. I don't have the boys Thursday, Friday. I do have the boys Saturday, Sunday. Thanks. It's an extended weekend. So,
yeah.
All right. We'll see.
I think we could probably figure out Saturday night.
All right.
Walk off an hour Saturday.
We don't have, yeah.
Let's see. There was one. Pitt says babies and new furniture. Bold strategy, Cotton.
Well, bought a huge sectional before, having a child was even, on the horizon. And this sectional is just too big. And now we're getting to the point where, play mat and the jumperoo and all that stuff. And I'm like, I want 30% of my living room back. So went to the mart today and picked out a couch and a love seat. And I was just like, cool, let's do this. I'm keeping the sectional. I'm just going to put it in storage.
There you go. For the next residence.
Yep. When I have a basement, yeah.
Smart. Gargamel says it was nice to see Oregon with the walk-off field goal.
Oh, we were glued to that game.
Yeah.
And hey, even though I know he's not watching, but shout out to Belva Altos' very own D. Hill Jr., who had a rushing touchdown for the Ducks against Iowa yesterday. Graduated from it's a high school, Catholic high school within walking distance of my house. So kudos to him.
Didn't you and the boys go to one of his games?
Yeah, I took Robert to the playoff game last year and got his autograph and just stellar young man. Honestly, I was wearing this hoodie and Robert was wearing his little Nebraska shirt and he remarked on that. I said, hey, as long as you're not playing Nebraska, I got no problem rooting for you. So he remarkable young man. So
good.
All right, let's take a look at the scores that you predicted for Nebraska Penn State at the outset of the season. Now, at the beginning of the season, this is a Nebraska team that was unranked, and Penn State was top 5 preseason team. And at that time, Haas, you predicted Nebraska would win 23-14. Would you like to make any changes?
No, I'm gonna let it roll.
All right.
I'm gonna let it roll.
Jake, you also predicted a Nebraska victory. You said Nebraska would beat Penn State 20-10. Any changes?
Holding them to 10 is going to be tough. Also, scoring 20, that's a really good defense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to stick with my prediction just because I don't want to change it and then have it magically be correct. Because also being a video game nerd like I am, that was actually the score that I had when I played them in the first season on this dynasty. So I'm not going to change it just because of the circumstance. So I'm going to keep it.
I like it.
Let it roll.
By the way,
the defensive performance, we might need some fumbles, some picks, and we might need some turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we may need a little Kenneth Williams magic as well.
Yeah.
I made a comment about this being a family show. Vajpoop says, wait, this is a family show? Brett says, yes, a dysfunctional one. Not really.
Yeah, it's a family show for the first 30 minutes, and then someone brings up Iowa, and all shit breaks loose.
We're like the Gallaghers on Shameless here.
Oh, you say Shameless, but I was thinking the Gallaghers from Oasis.
Oh, no.
No. 90s British rock band.
Oh, like Wonderwall?
Yeah, Champagne Supernova.
Okay.
Liam and Noel, I believe they clashed. Moving on. For when you're ready, Haas, we know a guy living in Omaha. David Matney says, Haas, I can help you with that.
Sweet.
So
you'll be my first call, David.
All right. That'll do it for this episode of Corn Nation Overreaction. I'm very pleased. I have a week's worth of work to do tonight because it's that kind of week. And I have Veterans Day off with the boys, so I know I'm not going to get anything accomplished then. So that is it for Corn Nation's Overreaction. We will see you in 2 weeks after the Nebraska-Penn State game. So enjoy next Sunday off. You all have earned it. I feel like we deserve it as well. So for Every Game Jake, for Haas, I'm Greg. Corn Nation Overreaction. Go Big Red. Haas.
Win the last 2 fucking games.
Fair. Jake?
Yeah, just keep it rolling and finish the season strong.
Let's do it. We'll see y'all. Don't forget Monday Night Therapy tomorrow night with Minnie and Fred. Huskers Happy Hour on Tuesday with Andy. And then I'll be back 5 Heart Podcast with Minnie on Thursday. And then next week, like usual, except no Corn Nation Overreaction. Go Big Red and good night.
Bye.